In today's equity index futures markets, let's take a look at the NASDAQ futures, as the NASDAQ futures are having a nice move higher today. We're seeing a strong move here to start the week, up about 2% currently, right around the 11,270 level for that December contract, as December now is rolling into becoming the front month future and negating some of the recent selling pressure. Now, we did see the NASDAQ futures down 5 out of the last 6 trading days coming into today. So again, a nice, strong up move, reversing some of this downward pressure. And I also want to point out that when you look at today's low, it did not come close to taking out the recent lows that we did realize late last week. So again, from a technical standpoint, that's a good sign that maybe we've seen the worst of the selling pressure, at least for the short term. Looking at some of the driving factors today, I think you have to point to the IPO market. Big IPO offerings this week, the largest since May of 2019, highlighted by Snowflake, which is a cloud-based software type provider. A very large IPO there. So I think that plays into the theme of the NASDAQ futures as far as that tech relevance. So I think that's one of the driving factors this week and will continue to be a driving factor with this IPO market continuing to show some signs of life. Couple that with the vaccine news that continued to break over the weekend, AstraZeneca coming back online. And so it looks like they're back in pushing to develop the vaccine that they've been working on and see how that plays out. And I think that played in the psychology of the market. Certainly that appears to have provided a nice lift for all the equity index futures markets today. Looking at the current trends, I want to point out that as we roll into December now, look at those micro E-mini futures on the NASDAQ picking up dramatic and substantial volume. We continue to see volume ramping up in all these micro E-mini futures, but the NASDAQ certainly is showing signs that it continues to take and develop market share when you look at the activity within those micro E-mini futures. I also want to point out that today we did see the Russell futures as the best performing futures market today, up about 3%, with the NASDAQ coming in second. And then we did see the S&P and the Dow up basically about the same. So again, a strong start to the week for all the equity index futures markets. NASDAQ futures markets benefiting, I believe, from the IPO activity that has been realized so far this week.